Hey, it's Jared. I've been bullet journaling for well over 30 days now. Just over 30 days ago, I made a video talking about my transition from a fully digital organizational structure, going back to a journal, one journal to house it all and operate my life out of. And so now that I am over 30 days into this process, I wanted to revisit how it's going and what's changed in my process. What have I needed to add? What have I needed to take away? What have I learned in this initial period of bullet journaling? Now, my bullet journal is not a normal bullet journal. I have gleaned different things from different journals and project management systems and task managers that I have enjoyed using in the past, but haven't been able to stick with because there was a weak link to it somewhere in there. So in this bullet journal, I have kind of built my own system, and I talked about that in the first video. I walked through why I was making this switch from the digital back to the analog and where my mind was at that time, still unsure as to whether or not this was going to be a good long-term solution for me. So I wanted to revisit this here, and hopefully if you are either on this journey along with me or you are trying to decide whether bullet journaling is for you, maybe there will be a couple of things that have worked for me that will work for you, or at least maybe percolate some new ideas for you to try out on your own in your mind. So let's take a brief look at my bullet journal, which I won't cover completely because I did that in the first video, but I'm going to look at everything that I have changed and adjusted and figured out what worked and what didn't work as I've moved through this past month and some change in days. So if I go back to the beginning of my bullet journal, I've got my table of contents here, which still is rather thin, but there's some things that I've added to it that weren't there before. My key was just very basic with here's what these different items mean if I utilize them. I've got some goals here, which I spent a little bit of time working on. All these goals I have made somewhat of a progress on, some more than others, but these goals are here so that I can easily reference them and see of their importance and not lose track on those goals. I check in with these goals once a week just to make sure that I have at least made a mental effort towards moving in the direction of one of those goals. I then have what I started out with in February, which is a traditional style calendar, 30 days, 31 day type of calendar with boxes and all of that stuff. I think I remember talking about the fact that I didn't like the amount of time that it took to draw this up in the book. My bullet journal is not some fancy, elaborate art project. I have nothing against those types of journals. If anything, I am envious of people who have the artistic ability and creativity to make their bullet journal a beautiful place. But if you're seeing my handwriting and what these pages look like, it's not a beautiful place. It's simply a useful and functional place for me. Spending the time to use the ruler and draw this out was very time consuming for me, and I didn't want to move forward in this process. However, as I moved forward to March, I went with a more traditional, just numbers down the page, list out the things that you have for that day, and that actually hurt my brain. I just don't like that because I'm not used to, and I don't think most of us that utilize a traditional calendar are used to just having a list like this. I come to this list and I'm like, when is Tuesday? When is Wednesday? When's Sunday? Like, I just don't know unless I go to the page and I'm like, oh yeah, Wednesday's the 22nd. Okay, Wednesday. That takes me out of the mindset that I was in, what I was trying to accomplish. And so there was friction there and I didn't like that. So while I don't like spending a bunch of time drawing out a calendar, I also don't like this either. This is not good for me. It doesn't help when I write something in over here that's towards the end of the day and then I end up having to write something in after it that's towards the beginning of the day. Now there's no order in which those things are written. I don't know my entire month, a month in advance when I'm writing this out. That is not going to work for me either. And so I will continue to try and figure out what will without taking a bunch of time to set up or limiting myself to something along the lines of this. I feel like I've got an idea of what I'm going to do. With April coming up, I will give that a try. And that's what this is all about too, is it's trying stuff. I just have to suffer through this for 30 days. And now I'm coming up on April and I have the ability to try something new. And suffering through this list, having also suffered through drawing out a traditional calendar and being constrained to the small boxes, causes me to think and problem solve and come up with solutions. And maybe I'm onto something or maybe I'm just going to continue to go through the iteration process until I find something that does work. I'm okay with that. I'm at peace with that. So let's take a look at what my daily pages have become. Well, one thing to check on too was what I decided to do at the beginning of March, which was to actually assign goals to the month of March and habits that I wanted in the month of March, and then projects and major tasks. And you can see that even though we are towards the end of March, this page did not really get filled out. And the main issue there is that I don't go backwards too far into the month. I may go back a couple of days, but going all the way back to this page, like this page has just been out of sight, out of mind for me. And so I quickly realized that this page right here is not going to work out for me. I need to do this on a weekly basis. And so as I started to get through the month, I started creating these weekly recap pages. A weekly recap page consists of wins, losses, takeaways, next steps, upcoming, which is the next 7 days, and then tasks that are going to fall within that next 7 days that I want to note here because I don't have the page created for it yet. And so this weekly recap combined with like a what's coming up has really worked out for me well in the last couple of weeks here. The wins, celebrating the things that went right in that week. That's another thing that I borrowed from the Full Focus Planner. But I think in the Full Focus Planner, they try to dance around the idea that we have had losses throughout the week, maybe moments of ineffectiveness, and they call it something else. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was opportunities or something like that. I flat out see those as losses. They're things that didn't go well or according to plan. If I was playing a baseball game and the game didn't go according to plan, I probably would have lost the game. Now, that doesn't mean that I need to take that in a negative way. If I recognize the things that went wrong and the things that didn't go the way that I wanted them to, then I can learn from that and I can make sure not to make the same mistake. So I chose the word losses because at that moment I lost. I was using my phone too much that week. So lots of screen time the last 2 days especially, I noted there as a loss. 3 days in a row where I didn't work out. That's a loss. And while I can justify that maybe I needed the rest or whatever, for me, trying to maintain a habit of working out daily or at least not taking more than 1 day off, 3 days with no workouts was not good. And I also had some poor eating behavior in there. Those are losses, things that I need to recognize and things that I need to think about. Why did that happen? What happened on those days that led to that behavior? And what can I do to prevent that in the future? Takeaways, better plan my days so that I don't slump. I need to structure my day a little bit better so that I don't end up procrastinating. If one of my tasks is going to be maybe a little too taxing for me on that day, I need to have a contingency plan in place. What tasks do I go to next? What can I work on instead until I either have enough bandwidth to jump back to that task or the wherewithal to say, hey, let's try it again tomorrow. Next steps is also a section that I felt like once I understand my wins, my losses, my takeaways, what is the next step for me? What should I be doing next? And so that's what that section is. I think right here, I just wrote a quote down. And then I've got my upcoming next week, next 7 days. And there's enough space there just to write in some of those main things. And for me, this is much easier to look at than this month view where I've got things crammed together in here, trying to fit it all in one line. Sometimes things are before they are supposed to be or whatever. It's just easier for me because this format is very much the same with my daily page schedule format. So it makes it easier. And then the tasks, pretty self-explanatory. What tasks are coming up that perhaps are in the next week that I don't have a page drawn up for yet. So let's take a look at a daily page now and what a daily page consists of. I hope that I've conveyed the importance of this weekly recap page to me and how it's working in my life and perhaps how maybe you could even implement some of this into your life. Let's look at my daily page. My daily page consists of main tasks, usually no more than 3 tasks. That's something that I got from the Full Focus Planner. I think they call it the big 3. Like, what are the big 3 things that you are going to accomplish in that day? And then there's a section for tasks down below that are secondary tasks. Like if I don't get to those, it's not a big deal. These are things that I would like to get done if I have extra time, but I'm also looking at them now as tasks that I could jump to if I get stuck for too long on one of the main tasks. If I get stuck on one of my main tasks, my natural inclination is going to be procrastination. I am going to get stuck. I'm going to continue to try and work on that thing and get stuck. I might go to my phone. I might do some things that ends up being busy work that there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not getting me closer to those main tasks. I'm trying to get better at identifying when I get into that place and having a contingency plan, which means having tasks that are easy wins for me that I can go to? What's an easy win that helps me get back on track? And sometimes that's all we need. We need a little win, a little boost of confidence. And hopefully those little tasks would be something that, yes, need to get done, but also can provide that for me. I also added a section for a daily win. I want to look at my day and say, what was the win for the day? What happened today that I can consider a success? Maybe it had something to do with those tasks. Maybe it had something to do with a conversation or an interaction that I had with someone, or even maybe just something that I read or something that rang true to me I can share in that daily win section. And then of course the note section I use sometimes as a journal. The other day I wrote, productive morning so far, didn't wake up early. I had weird dreams. I just felt like writing that. It's kind of like journaling. But then there was also things that I wrote. I went on a run while my wife rode her bike. My daughter was in the bike with my wife, and I haven't been able to run outside because it's been cold and there's been snow on the ground. It's one of the first times that I got to run outside. And so I was just kind of like notating how that felt. Very much journal stuff. Other times I'll write down notes based off of maybe I was reading a book and there was a quote that I wanted to remember. But the note section is just kind of like I want to save that. Whatever it is that's going on, whatever thought I'm having, whatever interaction I recently had, I want to say something about that in the notes section for my day. And so that's what that section often is. And more often than not, that section is pretty close to full almost every single day, and usually a weekend when it's not completely full. So then there's the schedule, which I just go by simple military time, counting up by 2, starting at 4 a.m. I usually wake up around 4:30 in the morning so that I can get a workout in, and I'm usually not up much later than 9 p.m., 10 p.m., very rarely these days, and so that fits everything. And I will write in anything that I have that I need to be aware of. All of that is going to be on my daily schedule so that I have a view of that. So moving forward, I think I have a pretty good framework that's working out for me. The main issue is that this is analog and it's only useful when I have it with me. I don't necessarily like carrying this book around with me everywhere. And if I don't have it with me, then I don't have my information with me. I have not been using my task manager, my Notion tools that I have built, and my ToDo app on my phone. But I find myself gravitating towards those sometimes because it's so much easier to get information into a phone than it is to pull out a book, open it up to a page, and start to write. A lot of times I'm laying in bed, perhaps before I fall asleep. It's very hard for me to pull this book out, turn a light on, and start writing, where my phone self-illuminates and it's very easy for me to tap something in and have that there. So what I've been utilizing on my phone, which on the iPhone, I've just been using the default Notes app to notate anything that I need. So instead of pulling my book out, trying to position myself in bed or wherever I'm at so that I can write something down and have it be legible, I will grab my phone and I will jot it down into the Notes app. And then the next day I will open up the Notes app and transfer any thoughts, any tasks that I may have thought of that I need to do, or any information that I put into that needs to be transferred into this book, so that this book is the most up-to-date collection of all of that information. Lastly, I'm just going to touch on this. What am I going to do when this book is full and I have to move on to a new book? All of this information is then going to be pretty much inaccessible at all times. And that's a struggle that I've had. What about when this book is done and I put it on the shelf or put it away somewhere in an archival type of way? That information is now no longer accessible to me unless I physically go and grab that book off the wall. That has been one of the biggest struggles for me, is understanding and recognizing that that information is not in a tool where I can search and get a result of all of the things that mention whatever keyword or whatever search phrase. And I also don't want to take the time to transfer all of this data into a digital tool because I don't necessarily know if that's going to be useful. So I'm currently stuck in this world of wanting the simplicity of an analog tool like this bullet journal that I think really has a lot of utility for me and has helped simplify and quiet the noise that digital tools can often produce, but at the same time wanting the benefits and the features of the digital tools that truly do make life easier when it comes to finding information and having access to information. But at the end of it all, I feel that I have grown more using this bullet journal over the last 30 days than I would have if I was using Notion or some other tool, simply because the tool in and of itself is not as interactive as a journal. And what I mean by that is grabbing a pen and writing and taking the time to write things out instead of punching them into a keyboard and then hitting submit and having that close and not be seen again until you physically go and open up that page on whatever tool it is, does not have that same interaction as opening up a journal, seeing the words that I've written, and even simple step of writing the things out myself. There is definitely something different about writing with a pen versus tapping things in to your phone. With that said, I hope that some of this video was useful for you. If it is, make sure to subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. If you have any thoughts or anything to add or anything to share, comment section would be a great place for that. And I would love to interact with you down there because I'm growing and figuring all this out and learning as I go, just as I'm sure you are, which led you to this video in the first place. Let's converse down there and talk about it. With that said, thanks for being here, and I hope to see you back in another video soon. Take care.